Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Have you checked the children?
I want to play a game. The box. You opened it. We came.
Here. This is the All-American Spookshow.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the All-American Spookshow podcast. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Donny.
Yep.
And the Professor Smoak.
Yep.
Will is on assignment. Honestly, this is probably better that he misses this one anyways, because we're doing our 2022 year in review, not like what we did on the podcast, but like we're going to be talking about all the horror movies and maybe a few other movies that we watched throughout the year of 2022. The movies that were released in 2022, not like, oh, I went back and watched Terminator again or something, but no, like the movies that actually released in 2022. We'll be talking about what we liked, what we didn't like. Most importantly, we want to stay towards the end. We're going to be doing a top five. Each of us are going to give you our top five of the year. And we're also going to do our bottom five, our worst liked movies. However you want to phrase that.
Worst liked. Yeah, that's accurate.
Worst liked movies that we watched in 2022. So, but yeah, the point about Will not being here is like, I think we only did two movies in 2022 that actually came out in 2022. We talked about Prey here on the Spook Show, and we did Halloween Ends. Donnie, do you remember what episodes those were? I remember Halloween Ends obviously was like right after it came out, so it was like, you know, in the middle of October. I just didn't know if while you're looking up episode numbers, those were the only two movies that came out in 2022 that we talked about. So that means that's pretty much the only two horror movies that Will would have watched throughout the entire calendar year, is the ones that we made him watch.
Yeah, Prey was episode 123, and Halloween Ends was episode number 130.
Hopefully we can be a little bit better about that this year, is like squeezing in some 2023 flicks throughout the year, more than two. If nothing else, this will be an exercise to get us ready for the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. And like, pretty sure they haven't announced their nominees yet, but I'm sure it'll be very soon, probably within the next month or so. And I want to say they do that around April or May, right? I think in the last couple of years, because the last 2 years, I believe, we did a live stream during the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards over on our YouTube channel. And hopefully we can do that again this year. But that's also a reminder that you need to go over to aaspookshow.com. That's the new center of the Spook Show universe, and that'll lead you straight to our YouTube page, our archives, our Patreon, which is patreon.com/aaspookshow. Lots of other cool things there, and we're going to be adding some new cool features there sooner or later, hopefully over the next couple months. So you want to be checking out aaspookshow.com. So I guess we'll go ahead and dive into like what we watched. Now I'll run through we kind of cross-reference the list, all the movies that I watched throughout the year, Donnie and Professor Smoak, and we kind of compared our lists to come up with some that we all watched, some that say just Smoak and I watched, and then some that just Donnie and I watched. Not many get past Professor, that's for sure. We also all just recently watched The Menu. Any knee-jerk thoughts on that one, Donnie?
Oh man, this was I really enjoyed it. I watched it. I actually watched it by myself, which I typically don't do. But
you don't want to get too scared.
Yeah. And, you know, but no, I liked it so much. I was like, yo, you got to check this out. Obviously, you know, I can't say obviously, but I liked it a little more than she did actually. But you know. We both thought it was really good, and more on that.
I've heard general reviews and comments about it. I think most people that see it enjoy it, so I think that one's definitely worth checking out. Another one that we all watched, obviously, I would say, well, other than Will, I would say this is one that we all definitely wanted to get to as soon as we knew it was going to be a thing. Terrifier 2. Smoak, you got any? Totally. You got any good words for Terrifier 2?
Yeah, I mean, without getting too far into it, like we'll do maybe a little bit later, but I liked it. I'll say this: I liked it. You know what my ratings are because we did the first Terrifier on the show, and I liked it, and I gave it a good rating. But I actually liked Terrifier 2 a little bit more. I thought there was a little bit more meat on the bone, so to speak. You know, both both thematically, story-wise, and even gore-wise. Even though there's, that one ultimate moment that was in the Terrifier, it could be arguable as whether they actually live up to that particular, violent of a moment in this movie. But we'll get into that. But yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
More meat on the bone, figuratively and literally, because the first Terrifier was only 1 hour and 25 minutes, and the second one was 2 hours and 18 minutes.
Yep, and we saw it twice. Me and my wife saw it twice in the theater when at
Nice.
2 hours and 18 minutes twice in the theater.
So they added an hour more of art for this one, and I agree with you though. I think it pays off, but we'll get to that a little bit later on, a little bit more deeper. Another one that we all saw was The Sadness. I think this has got to rank up there with Terrifier 2 in 2022 is probably two of the most fucked up movies of the year, right?
Yeah, that's probably accurate. Because I watched it. It was after you recommended it because you messaged us and said, "Yo, check this out." Did and that's a really good one.
It's one that'll haunt you for sure. I think now, Smoak, you may or may not agree. I don't know, but I think this is more messed up than Terrifier 2.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not, because the gore, true. I think the gore in Terrifier 2 is over the top and everything, but it's, for the most part, it sort of plays into that splatter movie, that fun splatter movie gore. I mean, there's a few like over the top moments that are like, oh, that's pretty fucking gruesome. But for the most part, it's fun, and you can, you get into it like you do a 80s type splatter movie. Whereas The Sadness was more of one of those seriously, kind of grisly, messed up type movies. It's not necessarily fun.
As far as not much fun to be had in that one.
Well, also, Terrifier 2, you know what you're getting. You know what you're walking into. If you've seen the first one, you kind of know at least what to expect. The Sadness, you didn't know.
Yeah.
No.
And the hype. There's no precursor.
Even with Terrifier 2, if you had, obviously you knew, like you said, if you've seen the first one, but even if you had not seen it, the hype around it, the word of mouth on that one, I think most people going in there probably know what to expect. I'm sure there were some people like, oh, let's go see a horror movie. Then, oh my God, And then,
there was that, because you remember the news reports that came out, and they ran with it with the promotion as any good, exploitation type horror movie will. The fact that some people passed out in the theater.
Yeah.
I mean, it was maybe one or two or whatever it was, but yeah, it was a movie. I think that if you didn't know what you were going in for, if it's like, hey, let's see a horror movie. Here's one, Terrifier 2. Then you're in for a ride that you probably didn't expect.
Yeah. No doubt, and trust us when we say the same thing for The Sadness. We're giving you fair warning if you're listening to this without any spoilers. It is fucked. I'm just telling you, it's fucked up. But it's good. It's I thought it was pretty good. But another one that we all watched was Barbarian.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know. It felt a little divisive in the sense like I'd heard a lot of good things, and it's not that I didn't like it. It's just it didn't quite pack the punch. There was hype, and it didn't quite pack the punch that I was expecting when I saw it.
I'm kind of with you on the same camp as far as it maybe not gelling with me as much as it did other people. I mean, I liked it quite a bit, but maybe it's because also I didn't get the hype of it. We didn't know anything about it. We went to see that when it was fairly fresh. I don't know if it was the opening weekend or not, but we hadn't heard anything about it really, other than maybe it being a decent movie. And so seeing it that way, didn't know what was coming up at all. We're not going to give away spoilers necessarily on this episode, but what I'm talking about as far as what ends up happening.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that. That just came out of the blue. So that was cool. I thought at least I didn't have anything spoiled for me when I saw it.
Yeah.
But to the end of it, it was as great,
We have joked. It seems like we have joked about it at the time. Like, all right, you were actually kind of expecting like an actual barbarian, right? Like Conan the Barbarian.
Half jokingly. I'm putting it this way. Whenever not when we went to see it, because then, actually when my wife told me about the name of this movie called The Barbarian, we have to watch the trailer for The Barbarian. Well, as soon as she said that, and not knowing anything about it, the first thought in my mind, of course, is, oh, seriously? Like a new fucking Barbarian movie? Like sword playing, like the shit out of each other? No, not at all. I'm like, oh, all right, I guess. Yeah. So maybe it's got that against it for me. It's a strike. It's not an actual Barbarian.
The next one that we all had a chance to watch was The Black Phone. Now, that was... God, I'm blanking on that. Was it Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, right? That wrote that book.
Yeah.
And it's based on that. Donnie, what do you think about The Black Phone?
I enjoyed it, man. Yeah, it's definitely on my list.
I thought it was effectively creepy. You know, anytime you start messing with kids and stuff, you know, I think most people would agree, like, you're going to be a little bit more on the edge of your seat, you know, when there's a movie like messing with kids, you know, taking it a step further with as far as they mess with kid stuff, right?
And and you can kind of say that Joe Hill is kind of like a chip off his father's shoulders, so to speak, because he's, it's got those elements that you can see Stephen King in it.
Oh, absolutely.
First of all, it is for the kids, coming of age sort of story, even though it's I won't say it's necessarily darker than anything Stephen King's done, because, Stephen King's books, for anybody who's read those, of course, they're a little bit more, his books are a little bit darker in certain aspects than movies can portray. And I think this movie didn't flinch from portraying some of those darker aspects when it came to, the story in this movie. And so, but yeah, I can definitely sort of see a little bit of Stephen King's influence on whether it was on him writing the story or whether it was on the filmmakers making the movie.
Another flick that we all watched, and this one's very interesting, Mad God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even almost fair to compare this movie to just about any of these other movies, like in the sense, for better and for worse. And, it's extremely unique. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like a throwback to the old, stop motion, everything's CGI now. And I say everything, I would say a good 90%, if not 95%, of, is pretty much CGI. This was different. It's definitely a welcome sight.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I guess to be expected with it being a Phil Tippett movie. Anybody who doesn't know who Phil Tippett is, he's first and foremost a visual effects, creator and stuff. So working with Industrial Light and Magic, I'm not sure if he's still with them or if he's with Solo now or what, but yeah, he's more known for special effects. And I could be wrong, but I think this was his first actual directorial debut or whatever. I believe so. Don't quote me on that for sure until we do this movie on the show. But I'm pretty sure this was his first full on, writing the story and directing it and everything himself.
The last one that we could tell that we all watched was the new Scream. So they just call it Scream, but technically it's Scream 5, right?
Yeah.
And that was early on in the year. That was like one of the first movies.
It was like January or February or something like that.
Somewhere around, basically about a year ago today.
I mean, it was fine.
It's kind of hard to break new ground with the Scream series.
Yeah,
point,
it was.
We'll leave it there because I can guarantee you with Scream 6 coming out, I think sometime in March, that might be a series that we get to sooner or later. Probably not, between now and then, obviously, but like once we get through Hellraiser, and if there's something else, I'm sure at some point we will work our way through the Scream series. So.
No, don't tell me we're going from Hellraiser to Scream. Oh.
Yeah. No, actually,
I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show or not. Maybe I have, but I'm biased. I'm not the person to ask when it comes to what do you think of this Scream movie or that Scream movie. I was never even a big fan of the first Scream movie. So
the next set of movies we got are just the ones that Smoak and I watched. We start off with X.
Yeah, we saw that in the theater when it came out, and it was it's A24. So anybody who knows A24 knows. Somewhat nowadays, if you know A24, you kind of know what to expect, which is expect the unexpected, right? But this movie was a little bit different for them. I thought it was a little bit more going towards that sort of nostalgic neo 70s type horror thing. I thought it was pretty fresh and different. I mean, fresh and different, but also playing with older horror movie conventions from like the 70s and 80s. And I thought it had a decent amount of gore in it for what it was. It's an R-rated movie still, but it pushed that R rating pretty good, I think. Actors were great. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Now that one and Pearl, we can just go ahead and mention that one because they both came out this year and they both tie together and they're both written and directed by Ty West. And Mia Goth is just, dude, I wouldn't be surprised. We're talking about her a number of times during the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards when we start talking about all the nominees and stuff. I would think she'll definitely get nominated for best actor or whatever the category is these days for the Chainsaw Awards. But if she doesn't, she'll definitely get nominated. She should win it. I'll be honest with you. I mean, she's really great in both those movies, especially in Pearl.
Pearl, yeah, because that's it's her. It's about her.
Yeah, it's basically just Pearl kind of snuck up on me too. I think probably on most people, right? They made X came out earlier in the year. All of a sudden, here's like an automatic sequel. In a way.
So you expect maybe not to like it as much as X, and I don't know. Really, I kind of came out liking it. If I had to give the edge to one of them, it might be Pearl.
Another one that Smoke, you and I watched was A Wounded Fawn. Now, what did you think of that one?
That one I wasn't too fond of. No, I wasn't too fond of.
Fond of. I kind of
You know,
figured it'd be right up your it'd be right up your alley with some of that imagery and what the fuckery was going on in that movie. I thought that would kind of.
I'll give it that. Yeah, the cinematography and the imagery and stuff. I'll give it that. But it was just it leaned too much into. We talked about this before. You know, we're 40-something-year-old white guys. We'll mix that again. So some of these movies thematically aren't necessarily made for it. So it didn't strike with me thematically. You know?
And the conclusion I come to with things like that is that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, not every single movie has to be made for every certain type of people. You know, like there's a certain audience for everything, and you know. Yep. It may not be for us, but you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that like that kind of thing, so that's fine too. But overall, I thought it was fine. There was a couple of parts where it fell a little flat, but basically, it's just kind of somewhat of a revenge flick, right? I mean, if you just want to kind of boil it down to what it is, that's basically what it is, right?
Yeah, and was it also A24? Put that one out. I might be wrong.
Boy, if it wasn't, it was A24 adjacent. You know,
yeah,
it definitely felt like it.
Their territory.
Yeah.
It's one of I guess it's what they would call, you know, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this genre, but you know, you hear it thrown around a lot, the elevated horror thing, which sounds very that's another one of those terms. It's like very pretentious kind of term or whatever, I guess. But I mean, but you know, people throw it around for things like The Witch and Hereditary and Midsommar and all that, when it's just not straightforward conventional type horror movie, and it's sort of an art film meets horror or whatever.
When it's something closer to a traditional drama flick, you know, something that makes you stop and think a little bit, then it's all of a sudden it's elevated horror, you know.
Yeah.
Something I don't know anyone would confuse with elevated horror was next, and we both watched Smile. That one to me, I felt it was fine. For me, it was just too long. Like, man, you needed to cut like about 30 minutes off of that and get to the point. Like, there seemed to be a lot of this, you know, not to give, you know, spoilers away, but it seemed to be a lot of cat and mouse going on of this person, you know, the lead running around trying to put the puzzle pieces together to figure out what this thing was, this Smile, right? This thing that was after her. Yeah. And then once you get there, it's kind of like, okay, all right, well, I just spent 2 hours, you know.
Yeah. And then you get the conclusion, which we're not going to talk about.
Yeah.
Too much to give you away or whatever.
We'll get to it on the show. I'm sure we will. Yeah,
Did you see it in the theater or no?
No, I watched it sometime later when it was on, like, I think Paramount Plus or something.
Yeah, we didn't see it in the theater either, but I mean, I would have seen it in the theater. The only reason we really didn't is because I saw, you know, watching the trailer, it looks really derivative and like all kinds of things you've already seen many times before. I thought it just looked like it would be a boring horror movie, just a, you know, throwaway type thing. So we didn't bother going to see it. We watched it here recently on I think we picked up the Blu-ray. Watching it, having watched it, I thought it was better than what I expected for it to have been. You know, because I didn't expect anything out of it.
Like I said, it wasn't bad. It was just too long for me. Yeah. It lost me somewhere in there. I'm like, all right, let's just wrap this. Let's just wrap it up.
Pacing, if they could tighten that up, it probably would have been a little bit.
The last one, boy, talk about going from elevated horror or things that make you think to something that makes you think of something completely different. And that was Morbius. I know this is a fringe type of horror movie, but I think there's enough horror elements there for us to talk about it.
Yeah, this was a movie I was originally anticipating. I'll say that just because when I first heard it announced like 10 years ago. Now,
no, that's not much of an exaggeration.
I know, but when I first heard it announced, I'm like, oh, because I always loved Morbius as a character. I mean, he's a vampire, and if you like horror movies and you like comics, then you like, you know, Morbius most likely. So I was expecting that and hoping it would be that they would play into the horror well, because I mean, maybe make it R-rated, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be about gore or anything. But I mean, it's Morbius and it's horror and it's comics and cool, all right, awesome. But then it kept getting delayed and it finally does come out, and it's Morbin time, you know.
Yeah. So, that being said, I'll say this: I waited on Morbius to watch it like a long time, because like I just heard everybody crapping on it. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm in no rush. I'll see it when I see it. And then once I finally saw it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't great, but it wasn't the worst. Like, I could think of at least, 5 to 10 comic book related movies that are way worse than that, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. definitely. It wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't what I was hoping for. But definitely, you can do way worse.
That's all we had as far as like the ones that just you and I watched Smoke. But I only have one, Donnie. You and I only have one that Smoke didn't see. And this is kind of surprising to me that Smoke hasn't watched it. And that was the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Was there any particular reason, Smoke, that you didn't see it yet, or?
I just didn't. I saw the trailer,
and that was it.
The press photo. Like I didn't like his mask. Not that has to be a big deal. Not seeing it or not seeing it, But I thought it was like this is the worst mask I've ever seen of the design for his mask. What I did like from the trailer though is that they showed the chainsaw, which was a chainsaw from the original Texas Chainsaw movie. That yellow, the exact actual chainsaw from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was it, and they were playing into it like there's going to be a little bit of tie-ins, and there was, I'm sure, Sally Hardesty, right?
Sally Hardesty's in, although it's a different actress because she's passed.
So yeah, it just didn't. The trailer didn't strike a good chord with me, and I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, eventually I'll get around to watching it. We'll have to because I'm sure we'll do it on the show at some point.
Yeah,
that was garbage. Yeah, it's just like I don't know. It was.
Damn.
And no,
by and large, I kind of agree. I'm not going to go as far as to say garbage, but I think there were a couple of scenes in there that redeemed it enough.
It was just.
I'll tell you another redeeming quality. It was only an hour and 21 minutes.
Well, there's that, but yeah, as far as to me, it was just. I don't see for any like anticipated horror movies, I try to not watch trailers.
Yeah.
So I like to go in cold and, just let it kind of happen. But I was just, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was just disappointed.
There's a little bit of a hype machine behind it because it is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh.
There's a new spin. You're always crossing your fingers when there's a new one. And let's be honest, Smoke, there hasn't been really a good one since like the second or third one.
No, I was gonna say that too. Even though Texas Chainsaw is the original is one of my favorite movies, horror movies especially, or favorite movies in general of all time. It's in there in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
And the second one I think is great, and the third one I thought was, like from that point on.
Yeah,
I haven't really liked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the remake I thought was all right.
Yeah,
especially because
I take that back. I forgot about that one. That one in the early 2000s where it was a remake. That one was fine.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
As far as like the movies that I think we had in common, that was it. Donnie, before I run through my list, and Smoke, you can run through yours. What are some movies that you saw that we haven't talked about that you might want to bring up here?
Man, let's see. I watched Dash Cam, which forgettable. Yeah, it's just nah. I also recently, as of a couple of days ago, I watched Hellhole, and I wish I hadn't.
The title sounds awesome. Hellhole.
I mean, I will say this: it's basically the premise, without giving anything away, is it's like you think monks, but it's like satanic monks.
Okay.
I didn't really like the movie, but it was I did like the creature effects. Also watched The Old Man, which was, fine.
I had that one on my list to watch, and I haven't got around to it yet.
It was all right. It wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't great. I just didn't enjoy it as much as some of these others. Also watched Choose or Die. It's another one that's streaming currently. I think it's on Netflix. Yeah.
Netflix horror in general is usually yeah.
You're just like all right. And then we also so Kenya loves lions.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the theater and we watched Idris Elba in Beast.
How was that?
Yeah, it was fine. It was all right.
So,
I mean,
pretty much everything you're saying, it was a movie.
It was all right.
It was a movie. Some of the ones I see on your list, Smoke, that none of the rest of us had watched was, I'll read them off here that I see. The Pale Blue Eye.
Yeah, I think that was a tail end of 2022 release, I believe. And it's I enjoyed it. It's a murder, mystery, horror. You know, the horror element's there, and it's more of a, because of the setting, it's sort of Gothic Americana setting where Christian Bale's playing a detective in West Point. It's at the school, you know, in West Point up in New York, in Hudson River Valley in New York, in the wintertime. So Hudson Valley, New York, wintertime, you're going to have, it's great settings. There's like woodlands and forests with the snowfall and all that stuff, and great overhead shots of that. Gothic type setting, and Edgar Allan Poe is a character in it, and I can't think of the actor's name right now, but the guy that plays Edgar Allan Poe was Dudley in the Harry Potter series. You know,
another one I see here on your list is Men.
Yeah, that was another A24 release. Not it, and you can judge by the title. It's basically a man-hating movie, man-hating feminist movie. So it's not going to be up my alley, and it's going to be I'm not going to enjoy that. But it was enjoyed more by, I think my wife enjoyed it a little bit more than I did for the visual aspect of it. I mean, I did like, the visuals were good. The cinematography was good. The storyline is just, wasn't for me. I can see a lot of people liking this movie, and a lot of people did like the movie, and it's got its fans and it's got its detractors, but I don't think anybody can fault it for its cinematography or whatever, the set design and all that stuff, and location and whatnot.
Another one I see here on your list is Studio 666 from the Foo Fighters. Like that. That's one I've been wanting to get my hands on. I want to watch that, and I haven't watched it yet. That
is, as you can expect from the title, and maybe just from hearing the word, the term Foo Fighters, is fun. It was a fun. We saw it in the theater, and so it was a fun sort of it had a lot of gore, but it very, of course, humorous. I mean, it's very humorous type splatter gore in it, but thought it was fun.
And the last one, one of the last ones that I see here on your list, you kind of threw in, even though it's just recently kind of coming out, and I'm sure we'll talk deeper about it next year when we do this, but Skinamarink.
Yeah, that one came out, well, officially it wasn't released until Friday the 13th of January, and but it came out in the festival circuit well before that, sometime, and I believe back in maybe even the summer when it started making the rounds in festivals. And it got a lot of buzz, but people didn't know it was for sure that it was going to be released at theaters. So during that festival run, somehow or other, it got bootlegged out into the cyber world, and a lot of people saw it that way because I guess a lot of people thought it wasn't going to get released in theaters, so they would watch it that way, and so it did get released in theaters. And I think it maybe had a little bit of its thunder stolen from it from that, but I think it still did well enough. It only cost $15,000 for them to make the movie. The last word I heard was about $890,000 that it made at the theater. So first of all, I want to see it again before I can give any real good assessment of it, because it's a movie. It's an experimental film that will split a lot of people on whether they like it, somewhat like it, or hate it. So we'll talk more about that, I think, in 2023. But I'd be interested to see what y'all thought of that movie. It's not for everybody. That's one of the terms you'll hear people say. It's not for everybody, and I definitely agree with that.
Now, I definitely want to check that out, and I will. And like you said, maybe we'll even get to it here on the podcast. But there is one other movie that you wanted to mention that was on the periphery, and you and I both actually have watched this movie, and that was Violent Night.
Yeah, that was a fun time. I didn't expect it to be as good. I mean, I won't say it's like a masterpiece or anything like that, but it was just a fun popcorn movie coming at the right time. Everything in it was just a blast, I thought, as far as the actors, the comedy when it hits, the violence, and the horror elements is mainly lying in that violent aspect of the movie and the battle scenes with the, without giving too much away, too. There were some pretty gory fight scenes and whatnot, so horror peripheral, we're not including it in the main horror thing, but I mean, I think it has some elements.
Yeah, it's not a horror movie, but there are some really gory bits in that movie, and I'll say this just to remember whenever you sit down to finally watch it, just remember that we told you there's some fine comparisons to Home Alone in that movie.
Yep.
I'll kind of quickly run through the list of movies that I watched that you guys didn't. Deadstream. It's available over on Shudder. That one was a lot of fun. I highly recommend checking that one out. It's a found footage type of movie, but it's the spin is it's like a YouTuber. It's doing a live stream at a haunted house, and I'll leave it there. it surprised me. It was a lot of fun, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. Another one of my pet peeves is when something overstays its welcome and it's too long, and that was the new Hellraiser. I think there was some positive things there in the movie, but it's way too long. Like another case where they need to shave about 30 minutes off that movie and get to the point. That being said, though, I like the new spin on things for this one. As far as like where it takes the Hellraiser franchise. Another one that was a pretty fast-paced movie that I liked that I would highly recommend was Saloon. Once again, a lot of fun. It's more of an action movie than a horror movie, but there's horror elements to it. It kind of takes
Senegal.
Yeah, that's it. And it kind of takes a spin or a twist, somewhere towards the end into something more than what you see, more supernatural, more horror. So that's why I kind of made this list. Speaking of movies that stick with you, Speak No Evil. Dear God. Like, this movie is roughly about an hour and a half or so. Almost the first 45 minutes to an hour are kind of like, what the hell is this? It's just like two families taking a vacation. And, you see the differences between how they raise their children. And then all of a sudden, left turn. And dude, like the end of that movie, dude, it stuck with me for a couple of days. I'm not going to lie. Like that one had me like, damn, kind of so depressing, It's so, yeah, I would recommend it just for that. But man, it is fucking dark. I'm fair warning, it is dark. A movie that was fun. Once again, kind of one of those more comedy action than horror, but there's horror in it. And that was Day Shift over on Netflix that had Jamie Foxx, Snoop Dogg, handful of others. Like, it's not your usual fare, but, I think there's a lot of fun to be had with it. I mean, with these people in it, right? So, I would recommend checking it out. One that was kind of a little divisive just because of who it was. Dario Argento's, it was the first one he's made in, 10, 15 years, Smoak? Dark Glasses.
A long time, yeah.
Dark Glasses. Oh, man. For those that like, you really got to like Italian horror. I'll say that. Just keep that in mind. Like you're getting a heavy dose of that, that giallo type stuff, but like not as good. It's like, I'm not going to say it's like the worst, right? But it's like, it's mid-tier Italian horror type stuff. I would recommend checking it out just because it's an Argento flick, but that being said, it's kind of like, oh man, like you want to see it. You want to see him at a higher level than this. I'll leave it there, and I'm sure we'll get to it eventually. And Smoak, I'll be interested to see what your take is on it when you.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I didn't get to see in 2022 that escaped me. I mean, I knew about, but just didn't get around to watching. That, of course, is going to be up my alley somewhat because of my interest in Italian horror.
One that kind of got skipped here when we were going through the list is Nope. I couldn't tell. Did we all see that? Or I mean, I saw it obviously, but which?
Yeah, I saw it too.
What did you think of that?
Nope. Yeah, I thought it was. I wasn't the big fan of Us. As big a fan maybe as some people were of it. So I thought it was just a little overhyped for me, that movie. But this movie I like much better. So
yeah, that one was surprising to me. Like as far as it wasn't quite what I expected it. I enjoyed it.
I kind of got vibes of it being somewhat like M. Night Shyamalan's Sign when I saw the trailer. A little bit, because I knew it was. And again, we're not giving anything away. It's not giving anything away, I don't think, to say that most people think aliens when they see the trailer.
No, because, you watch the trailer, there's a sci-fi feel to it, and it's there. Yeah. It's definitely there.
And so it kind of like it was playing like that a little bit to me, and then it doesn't necessarily. It plays with your expectations, and things happen in it that don't play out the way you think they might. So
it's good stuff. Good stuff. I'll just kind of run through the list here instead of hesitating at everything, because some of these I don't want to talk any deeper about. Firestarter, the remake. Another one.
I see that on the bottom of a lot of people's lists. I guess for good reason. I didn't see it, but you think it's for good reason? I'm
not going to go as far as to say it's Crapster worthy, but yeah, I don't think it's going to get very high marks when we finally get around to it. Another one, The Legend of La Llorona. Shame on me, honestly. Anything with La Llorona on, I should have known better.
I could have told you that.
It's got Danny Trejo in it. There's that.
It's got Danny Trejo?
Yeah, he's in that. If that wins you any points, then go for it. Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. Now, you need to see Scare Package, and I will say this too. Dude, these are two movies that I'm going to be selecting. I can almost guarantee I'm going to be selecting us to watch this year for the podcast. These movies, they play on horror movie tropes in an anthology way. Really, really well done comedy horror flicks. Hellbender. Smoak, I think that's one that's right up your alley. But I thought A Wounded Fawn you would like, so what do I know, right?
No, I'm sure I'll get around to watching that one, because that is one that I know of and would want to watch.
Yeah. Another one you should definitely get to, because I think you would really like it, The Innocents. Now, Donny, you mentioned like you're not a big fan of slow burns. It is a little bit of a slow burn, but I think it's really well done. Another one, Donny, maybe this is more up your alley. Hocus Pocus 2. Maybe that's what...
You got me.
Yeah. Oh, boy. I felt like it was, it's a fitting sequel to the first one. If you liked the original Hocus Pocus back in the 90s, you probably like this. That's really all I got to say about it. It's fine. Watcher. That one was an interesting thriller type of movie. And another one that was a thriller was Resurrection. Which kind of caught me. I didn't know exactly what to expect with that one. It's got Tim Roth in it, a couple others. Some really fine acting jobs in Resurrection and in Watcher, but those are more your, psychological thriller type movies. So I'll say that they're not like true horror. Although that Resurrection, boy, the ending of that one, wow. Yeah, I'll just leave that there. Here's another wow movie, Hatching. Now this movie was on Hulu, I believe. Good Lord. I forgot about the movie until I'm sitting there looking at the list and I'm like, oh shit, that movie. I'll just go ahead and lay it out, as least spoilery as I can. This girl kills a bird. She finds that the bird had laid an egg. So she takes the egg to her house because, I killed the bird, right? Then the egg grows to the size of a human. And I'm going to stop right there. Okay? I'm going to stop right there. You just need to watch it. Holy
how much
shit.
money you could get for that egg these days?
Yeah. That's at least a $15,000 egg. A couple other, another one I'll mention, and I'm not going to dwell on it. Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Now, there's a little bit of a story there, right? Donnie, you and I went to go see that movie at the theater because it was a limited engagement type deal. And the theater that we went to, the projector broke. And we couldn't. So we only got to see like the first 20 minutes of the movie. I even went back the next week because they extended the engagement. Like, it's got more dates. I'm going to go. The projector was still broke. So I didn't get to see it. Although I did get to see Barbarian because of that. Because like second time I'm like, all right, I'm here. I'm going to see something. And I watched Barbarian. So at least I salvaged that second go around. But I did finally get a hand on a copy of Jeepers Creepers Reborn. And man, I was disappointed, to say the least. I'll leave it there. Last movies I watched, literally in the last day. Bodies. That one was from A24 as well, Smoak. And Sissy. Both those movies aren't necessarily made for our audience, for instance. But I think there is an audience for them, and I think there's some positives to take from each one, especially Sissy. I like that one a little bit more. Although there's plenty of gore in both movies. They're not boring. They're not... there's plenty of gore, so there is that. So there's redeeming qualities there, so I'll kind of leave it in the middle. It's just that I guess it's just a generational gap. It's as simple as that. It's not made for guys that are like over 40. It's made for like Gen Z, early to mid 20s people. That's what these movies are made for. But I'll say either one of those movies, they didn't skimp on the gore, especially not in Sissy. Man, you get toward the end of that one, man, that last 30, 40 minutes, dude, there's some pretty good gore in that. So I'll leave it there. So yeah, that's the, I know it's kind of a lengthy overview, but we've watched a lot of movies this year. And like I said, hopefully that will leave us in a better place once we get to the Chainsaw Awards and we start talking about that stuff, to kind of have a more informed, when we start making our predictions and we start talking about what's going to happen there. So it'll make it a little bit more interesting. So I guess we'll go around and do our bottom 5. We'll do our worst 5 movies first. So we each have our own list of the all these ones that we just talked about that we did not like the most. So Smoak, I'll go ahead and toss it to you first. Which which 5 movies did you come up with that you do not recommend of the ones that you watched?
Well, I mean, these, I don't know that y'all have them in order or not. I don't necessarily have an order per se. Like this is the 5th lowest one or the 4th or the 3rd, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll give you the 5.
However you want to do it. I actually have an order to mine because
I don't.
Because I do not like these so much. I had to rank them. So
some of these will probably, I might be able to say this I like worse than that one, or whatever. But
however
some
you want
are
to do it,
maybe
but
not
either
so
way.
easy.
Either way.
I don't know. I guess I'll start with Halloween Ends. There's a movie that was like you're expecting a little something, at least. I mean, something, and then you get that. For me, it wasn't. And we did this on the show. We've already given our deep dive thoughts on it and everything. But yeah, it's not a way to end the series. I didn't think, not a good way. I mean, you're introducing a character who wasn't even in any of the other movies, and he's that major force in this movie, and it's just I don't want to revamp all that crap again. And besides, I got a feeling that I'm not going to be the only one that this movie's is in their bottom 5, probably. Maybe we'll find out. But I'd have to put maybe, and it's I've already talked about this. I'm no big fan of the Scream franchise. So once you get down into Scream Part 5, I guess this is right.
Yeah,
would have been the 5th one.
Yeah, that was the 5th one. Yeah.
It's just, and me not even being a big fan of the first one, I think this is an obvious for my list. It's going to be on there. So I'll put that. It might not necessarily be that low at the bottom 5, but it's there. Morbius.
It's Morbin time.
It was not Morbin time for me. And we didn't talk about this, but that movie came out and then it bombed, of course, whatever. And then they took it out and then they brought it back because of it's Morbin time.
They missed the joke.
Yeah, there was a running internet. I mean, it was a viral meme or whatever that just had its own life. And so they thought they could bring it back into the theaters, I guess, and maybe recoup a little bit of their losses. It backfired on them. It did not.
It's rare it's rare that a movie flops twice in the same year.
Yeah, but Morbius did.
Yeah.
That's the bottom 3 main ones. These next ones are going to be ones that I don't hate, but they just didn't I don't like them as much as the other ones on the list, So I think I'll go with, Men. I'll put Men down there, actually. I'll take that back. Men is one of the ones I didn't want. Men is one of the ones that, I don't recommend it for certain, like we've talked about, our certain demographic.
So what I gather you're saying about Men is you love men, so you hate men.
The 5th one is going to be one that is not one that I hate by any means. It just has to be a 5th one down here somewhere that is not as good as the others in front of it. I have to put Nope down there, I guess, because all these other ones I have on here I like better than, even though I think Nope is a good movie. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a bottom 5 movie. It's just I don't have any other bottom movies that I didn't like or whatever.
Yeah. Donnie, what's your bottom 5?
So I only watched 16 2022 horror movies. So it's going to be kind of slim pickings here, but it's still to me it's warranted in this list.
It's not like either one of you guys. It's not like these are definitive list of like, oh, these movies suck ass, I'd never watch them again. This is more like, well, I only saw 10, 15, 20 movies, so these are the ones I least liked of those movies.
Exactly, least liked.
Trust me, there's worse.
Out of all
seen
of these. So I would echo Smoak's sentiments with Halloween Ends. I don't think really anything more needs to be said about the disappointment. And then also Dashcam, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's certainly in the bottom 5, along with Hellhole, even though the creature effect was kind of cool. Hellhole.
That's just the best name. I'm sorry. It's a great name.
Yeah, that's definitely a better name. Than
especially if you're putting it in the bottom 5 too. Like,
thing is, it's not a horrible movie. It's not bad. I just didn't like it as much as some of these other ones. But
fair enough.
I mean, for me, it's the creature effects probably save it, if anything. And then Choose or Die. So just those were three movies that you guys didn't end up watching.
So I have no opinion on those. I don't know whether to agree or disagree.
So that's my bottom 5.
All right. Well, I actually scientifically broke mine down a little bit more because as I was watching the movies throughout the year, I actually went ahead and kind of gave it my rating. So like I looked at it like, well, if I was watching this for the podcast, this is the rating that I would give it. So I'm just going to strictly go down from 5 to 1 here because I have an absolute worst. There's no doubt about that. The ones at the bottom two, actually, there's kind of a split decision there because I have a handful of movies there. Number 5, Hatching, because it's just so damn stupid. It's goofy. That being said, we need to watch it because it is funny. I think it will be funny for us to watch it, but it's not good. I'll say that it's not good.
Now, yeah, I do want to kind of say something about Hatching. When I did, and I think I watched maybe part of a review or something. Anyway, the creature, I guess, bird thing, kind of reminds me of something from the Rockefeller explosion in Showbiz Pizza Place.
It does look. Sorry, I got choked. It does look like an old creepy animatronic. It's like some shit from that game Five Nights at Freddy's or something.
Yeah. Oh man.
I guess I'll go with Morbius at number 4. And really those two are like neck and neck. Splitting hairs. I could go 4 or 5 for either one of them, or whatever. Because I got a handful of other movies that were kind of similar, like Resurrection. But that one has a crazy ending to it that just kind of like, what? It doesn't make it stand out just a tad just because of that crazy ending. But my top 3 are very definitive. Firestarter, that's number 3. That movie sucks. That is a horrible, horrible remake. Horrible.
That movie sucks.
Horrible.
I'm sure that would have been on my. If I had seen it, I'm sure it would have been on my bottom 5 too, more than likely. I don't doubt that.
Number 2, and it's right neck and neck with it, honestly, with Firestarter, and that's Jeepers Creepers Reborn. The word of the day is disappointment. I was just disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed in how you've turned out. That was basically the way I felt about that movie. And the worst by far, The Legend of La Llorona. That I don't even know. I want to gouge my eyes out thinking that I sat there and watched that damn movie. That is.
Knowing you too, and knowing how you are, you have to watch something all the way through to the end. Right? You can't just start it and stop it pretty much.
Yep, fuck me.
You were probably like, well, Michael Chavis didn't have anything to do with this. Maybe it has a chance.
Yeah, I mean, that was early in the year where I was kind of like, I'm going to try to watch everything I possibly can in 2023, and 2022. I'm sorry, and then I watched that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a break from 2022. And this was this is like February, Fuck, if this is what we got in the store, this is going to be a sorry ass year. But yeah, I mean, luckily things went up from there. But yeah, that movie sucks. It's just horrible. The CGI it's comical. I mean, at best it's comical. It's bad. It is bad. None of the rest that I saw this year that I've talked about today come even close to being as bad as The Legend of La Llorona, and that includes all the ones that I just mentioned, and Halloween Ends and everything. Halloween Ends is like The Godfather next to The Legend of La Llorona. Trust me on that. Smoak, I'll throw to you then. The main event here. We'll wrap up with this. We're each going to go through our top 5. So our best 5 movies that we saw in 2022 for the horror genre, at least. So Smoak, I'll let you lead the charge.
Yeah. So I'm gonna again. Maybe I don't have a definitive number. This is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5. But maybe as I'm doing this list, I can kind of put them in that order. Just for me, it sometimes becomes hard to do a top 5 list whenever they're movies I've only seen once a lot of times. So I know, for me, it's repeated viewings of some of these as we do them on the show may raise or lower my, how I saw that movie per se. But I'm just going to list off 5, and then maybe I'll order them as we go along here. So one I'll list off is Terrifier 2. I saw it in theater twice. Again, it is a long movie that doesn't feel long to me. I think that, yes, you might be able to say he could have trimmed this or that, and maybe the pacing would have been a little bit better. But I mean, I didn't feel like it was that long, and I didn't even go into it knowing it was that long. And it didn't, when it was over and realized that how much time had passed, it was news to me. I didn't know it was that long going into it, and I didn't feel like it was that long. So, The Sadness. It was, as we've said, it's not a fun one. Those two movies, as we talked about earlier, are sort of polar opposites. I mean, they are similar in that they are very gory, and probably the goriest movies on this list for me, but very different in their enjoyment of them. Well, say you enjoy Terrifier 2. I mean, if you enjoy gory horror splatter, some people, as we've said passed out in the theater. So if you know it's for you, then you know it's for you. If not, if you don't like gory horror at all, whether it's fun splatter type movie, popcorn movies, or grueling, grim movies like Sadness, then if you don't like that, then you won't like either of these two movies. But so the number 3, I would go with I'm gonna go with Pearl. Also, I don't know. I'm kind of, I've seen some people making some lists for 2022, and they kind of put Pearl and X together because, well, I mean, they're, same director, their sequel and whatever. I don't know if I don't know if we're gonna do that or not. That might be a cop out. I don't know. I think I'm for number 4, The Pale Blue Eye. That surprised me. I didn't know anything about it until, like I said, tail end of 2022 is when it came out, and being a huge fan of Edgar Allan Poe and having Poe in here as a character, and also being a fan of Christian Bale as an actor, I thought that was a surprise hit for me. And now it is a bit of a slow burn. So if you don't like slow burn movies that take their time to unfold the plot and everything, then you may not enjoy this one so much. But if you do and you like detective, mystery, gothic horror kind of things, then I think you'll enjoy this one. I think I'm gonna have to go with Black Phone edging it out at the position number 5. And and looking at this now too, I think I would go Terrifier number 2. Might be my number 1 for 2022 that I've seen, other movies I've seen. Beyond that, maybe I think I'd go with The Sadness in the 2nd slot, and then in the 3rd slot, Pale Blue Eye. 4th slot, Pearl, and the 5th slot was The Black Phone. So that's the order I believe I'll go with.
All right, Donnie, what kind of top 5 you coming up with?
Yeah, I am not going to have any kind of order because it doesn't really. My mind doesn't work like that. But no, this is and some of these that we've already discussed, and some of these we've watched together, we watched all.
All of us.
All of us have watched them.
Mm-hmm.
So my top 5, just to round it out: Terrifier 2, The Menu, which I really enjoyed. Which, we'll probably get to it at some point. The Sadness, which, awesome. Definitely cannot recommend that enough. The Black Phone, I really enjoyed this one. Mad God. Definitely, I like a little more creativity, something like a little interesting type of, just a very interesting,
You don't get many more different, creative, and interesting than that. There's no doubt about that. Very, very unique. Mad God. Mine, once again, more scientific approach because I actually rated the movies as I went along. So I have a definitive 5. But I could argue that there's no particular order, although I'll run down it. I've got really honestly tied for 3rd, 4th, and 5th because I gave it all the same rating. The Sadness, Terrifier 2, and Nope. And I really like Nope because it was different than what I was expecting. And it's just so well done. I mean, dude knows what he's doing. I'm blanking on his name. Was it
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele. I was going to say Jordan Poole. That's like a football player or some shit. I don't know who the hell that is. But Jordan Peele, that dude really knows. I mean, like in such a short time, he really has become like a top 10 horror director of this generation, in my mind. Great movie. And then the top 2 have a slightly higher rating for me, and that was X and Prey. And Prey is simply based on the rating that I gave it on the episode that we talked about. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a great fucking movie that really, I mean, like, yeah, there was anticipation to it because everybody knew that it was a new Predator movie coming, but I don't think I expected it to be that well done. I mean, and I guess you can kind of, you toe the line there between action and horror with that, right? With the Predator movies and Prey and everything. Yeah. But I'm just going to go with what I went with on that episode rating wise. So I'm going to rank it right up there. Honorable mention, right on the fringe, The Menu. I mean, like you can make an argument it's in my top 5. The Menu and Pearl. They're right there. And a handful of other movies. I'm not going to go relitigate the whole list again, but there's a handful of others that we went through the episode. So there you go. I think you get a pretty good consensus that, just hearing all 3 of ours at least, that we all loved Terrifier 2, and the sadness for sure. And Smoak, you and I both loved X and Pearl, and Donnie, whenever you get a chance to watch them, I'm sure you're going to like, I would imagine you're probably going to like those as well. So I think overall that's kind of our top 5, really in a nutshell of 2022 horror movies that we recommend you go check out. And there's always tons more, and then maybe there's some that we left out, and if we did, let us know. And maybe you can recommend some stuff that we can get around to, because there's still a lot that I didn't get a chance to watch. And I'm sure there might even be a few that we watch. Some of us might have watched and we forgot about, so that'll pretty much wrap it up. That'll put a bow on 2022 for us. And if I talk to Will and he's got some movies that he wanted to say something about, we'll give him the floor, first chance we get as soon as he's back on the show. So, all right. So, next week, we're going to, let Donnie have the floor. It's his choice. And, Donnie, what are you bringing to us next week?
I wasn't going to do this so close to Shaun of the Dead, but, I really love this movie. So fuck it. We're doing, I'm actually going to, bring, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I love this movie.
That was a movie that I had on my my list to watch forever, and then for whatever reason, I'll watch it later. Watch it. I finally got around to watching it in the last couple of years, and dude, I loved it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it has been a while since I watched it, even then. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and watching it again. Smoak, have you seen that one?
Oh yeah, it's been a little while, but I've probably seen it at least twice.
Yeah, same. I've probably seen it a handful of times over the. I think I first watched it in 2011. So
it came out in 2010, so that would have been fairly new. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's directed by Eli Craig, and I'll go ahead and read the brief IMDb synopsis. Affable hillbillies Tucker and Dale are on vacation at their dilapidated mountain cabin when they are mistaken for murderers by a group of preppy college students. So yeah, it's funny. It's definitely funny for sure. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and watching that one again. So that's going to be awesome. I think it's another good pull. And you know what? You just got to pick it, as opposed to a vote that you would have won anyway.
It's true.
So either way, right? Either way, you would have been all right. So yeah, there you go. That'll be coming up next week. That's how we're going to wrap up the month of January with Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and then we got some other cool stuff planned out for February. So for Will, who couldn't be with us, Donnie, Professor Smoak, I'm Josh. We are from the All American Spook Show, or we are not from. We are the All American Spook Show podcast, and we'll talk to you next week.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.